Hello there, my name is Robert Frost. Somehow, I was transported to 2013 and was told that I'm to talk about one of my most famous poems, which is also one of my favorites. This is none other than my poem, Stopping by the Woods on a Snowy Evening. First off, let me read it to you and see what you think of it. Whose woods these are, I think. I know. His house is in the village. Though, he will not see me stopping here to watch his woods fill up with snow. My little horse must think it queer to stop without a farmhouse near, between the woods and frozen lake, the darkest evening of the year. He gives his harness bells a shake to ask if there is some mistake. The only other sounds the sweep of easy wind and downy flake. The woods are lovely, dark and deep, but I have promises to keep and miles to go before I sleep and meal. I went into great detail in this poem, but not quite everyone knows what the meaning of this poem really is. As Robert Frost, aka myself, once said, the poem is not simply a description of a natural scene but is about a person experiencing the scene. I guess I'm not a nature poet. I have only written 2 poems without a human being in them, which is yet another of my sayings. The man in this poem finds himself, along with his horse, alone in the snow-covered woods in the late evening. As I once said, the reason as to why the speaker of this poem stopped in the woods was to just soak in the nature and get to enjoy life by just stopping and taking a look at the beauties in life. You see, too often, people go through life too quickly with a tight schedule, so I felt the need to write about a man who stopped to enjoy the little things, and I hope that you, my audience, will do the same. This work of mine has the modernist writing style in it, due to the fact that I wrote it in the modernist writing period. As a Mr. Willock once said, one characteristic of modernism is the use of simple language that carries a lot of weight, and the literature often carries a deeper meaning. Some people may read this poem of mine and simply think of the images of woods on a snowy evening, but in order to fully digest what I was trying to get across, one must read more into the words. As I previously stated, the meaning of this was that people need to stop and enjoy the little things in life before they have passed them all up. So, in order to understand my poem, the modernism writing style must be within one's grasp. This poem is a bit different than others. This particular poem contains rhyme and rhythm, however, the rhyme is a bit different. It is different in that the last word of the second and fourth line in each stanza rhymes. He gives his harness bells a shake to ask if there is some mistake. The only other sounds the sweep of easy wind and downy flake. Frost. A Mr. Barton once said that other than the physical aspect of this writing, the words and descriptions that I use are quite straightforward and very easy to understand. Barton also once said that this poem uses basic language in describing the setting and events without using over-extravagant language. One line of the poem reads, "My little horse must think it queer to stop without a farmhouse near." This line shows this very direct and simple type of description that I, Robert Frost, used throughout the poem. Some aspects of this poem can be related back to other literary periods. One obvious characteristic of the poem is the focus on nature. The title, Walking by Woods on a Snowy Evening, even refers to it. As stated in an article titled, Transcendentalism, this characteristic of focus on nature is distinctive of the transcendentalist literary period. Another trait of the poem is its interesting but plausible story. The poem describes a man with his horse stopping in woods to see the snow while thinking to himself, "This is something that definitely could have happened," relating the poem back to the realism literary period, which in the words of a Mr. Campbell, were focused on realistic events. Although this poem is part of the modernism literary era, it displays characteristics of other literary periods. As you can see, the modernist style of writing can be quite odd, but at the same time, it made me famous, so I like it quite a lot. Even with the use of simple words, I have been able to stitch in deep meanings into my works, especially this one. Thanks for listening to me ramble along for so long, and wish me luck getting back to my real time period.